chanted today? Rounds means one round is 108 beads or 108 mantras. So my question is, how many rounds did you chant today? And did you keep an Ekadasi fast? So if you can quickly post this in the chat, that would be great. And as you're doing that, we will start the session. Yeah. So yesterday, we did the 15th chapter, which is called the Purushottama Yoga. Purusha Uttama. The Uttama Purusha is the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And we began our discussion by talking about, do we want to stay in this hotel or do we want to go back home where we really belong? For whatever reason, we left that home and came here. And our mood should be, we have to prepare ourselves to go back home. And in that context, the Lord was using the banyan tree analogy. But this banyan tree is unique in that it is upside down. The roots of the banyan tree are connected to the spiritual world. And the branches and the leaves and the trunk of the tree are moving away from the spiritual world. And the only example that we can think of this upside down banyan tree is if we see the reflection of the tree in a body of water, then we realize that the tree looks to be upside down. So Krishna is saying we should not spend too much time searching for happiness in this upside down banyan tree, because your real happiness is only there in the spiritual world. So if we want real happiness, then we need to make our way back to the spiritual. And we said that the trees and the branches and the twigs and the leaves all represent different facets of the Vedas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So the more we get into Dharma, Artha, Kama, the further away we move from the root being Krishna. So if we want to go back to Krishna, then we need to understand what is the essence of the Vedas. The essence of the Vedas that we discovered in Shlokas 16, 17, and 18 is that there are two types of Jivatmas. One set of Jivatmas are liberated. They're always in the spiritual world. They never come into the material world at all because they're too happy to be there with Krishna and they are serving Krishna. Another set of Jivatmas are called conditioned souls, in the sense that they were the, if I could use the word, we are the disobedient children who did not want to listen to Krishna, and so we've landed up here in the material world. So Nitya Baddha and Nitya Siddha, two kinds of Jivatmas. The 17th verse, the Lord says, there is one more superior entity to this Jivatma, and that is Paramatma. And the Paramatma is always there with the Jivatma, guiding it if it wants guidance, or simply observing in silence if the Jivatma wants to be left alone. And finally, the Lord says, beyond all of this, and because I am transcendental to everything, the Lord concludes by saying that He is the Supreme Lord, the owner of everything, and anybody who performs a little bit of devotional service will certainly come back to Him. So essentially, instead of investing our love and energy into things that are temporary, Krishna says if we invest our love and energy in the one thing that is permanent, which is our relationship with Krishna, then Krishna himself begins to enjoy that relationship and he will come to fetch you. So that relationship with Krishna can be in the form of a friend, in the form of a father, in the form of a son, lover, etc. And such love, Krishna says, is never destroyed. So none of us should make any plans to settle down in the material world, because one day this material world is going to get destroyed. Your body is going to get destroyed. And we will all simply start the same cycle again and again. And the beautiful thing about Krishna is that anytime you check out of the hotel, you have to settle your bills. No owner is going to let you out without settling your bills. Here, the hotel owner is Maya Devi herself. You think she's going to let you off easy without paying up your dues? But you know what Krishna says? Krishna says, this is my devotee, I will clear his debt. You please just release him back to me. So that is the nature of the Supreme Lord. He loves his sons and daughters so much that he himself writes the check and clears the balance that you owe. What is Krishna clearing? Your papas and your punya. Because as long as there is papa and punya in your account, you cannot go back to Krishna. So even if there is punya, you have to take birth to enjoy it. If there is papa, you have to take birth to suffer. Therefore, Krishna is so merciful and so kind. He himself settles the final check, the final bill with Maya Devi and says, I'm paying off. I'm wiping out all the debt. You please release my son back to me. So Krishna is instructing his devotee, Maya Devi, to not trouble his devotee. So this essence of the 15th chapter is the Lord telling you how to come back to him. How do you come back to him? By following the Vedic scriptures. Now keep in mind, this last 6 chapters is not Bhakti Yoga. This is Jnana Yoga. The Jnana to do Bhakti. So if you have not reached that stage of doing Bhakti to Krishna, then Krishna says, follow the instructions of the Vedic scriptures. Follow the path of liberation, and ultimately you will find me. Right? But we also discussed that this Bhakti is not anything new for us. We were doing Bhakti before. So Bhakti is not new. So we are just reviving what we have forgotten. And simply by reviving what we have forgotten, we get the opportunity to go back to Krishna. Okay. So the single word or acronym for yesterday was GPS. And GPS, we said, is Goloka Positioning System. And in parenthesis, we have written the Vedas. So if we are following the instructions of the Vedas, the ultimately Krishna says you will come back to me. Of course, if you're doing Bhakti, you will go back to Krishna. Krishna also talks about how he maintains everything. He maintains your physical body. He maintains this universe. He helps all the planets float in space. He maintains our subtle body, our mind and intelligence. So essentially, Krishna is saying, I am the source of everything. Indeed, I am everything. Without me, nothing can survive. So the question is, what is stopping us from going back? And we already talked about the gunas in chapter 14. The Krishna has already said that we can overcome the gunas simply by performing bhakti. No? So in the 16th chapter, Krishna is going to talk about how all of us have this divine qualities and demoniac qualities in us. So the 16th chapter, Krishna throughout the Bhagavad Gita has spoken about divine qualities. Starting from chapter 2. That you should be determined, that you should use your intelligence to serve Krishna, etc., etc. But Krishna, for the first time in the Bhagavad Gita, is going to talk about the demoniac qualities. So because divine qualities, he's already explained in detail and in many chapters. In the 13th chapter, in the 12th chapter. So repeatedly, Krishna has explained to us what qualities his devotees possess. Now, what about those who are not his devotees or somewhere in between? What kind of qualities do they exhibit? And how do we end up making our choices between divine and demoniac? So, Krishna talks about the 26 divine qualities in chapter 16. So you would think the demoniac quality should be a much longer list, no? But divine qualities are far more. So let's quickly look at this. So in shlokas 1 to 3, Krishna is saying fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivating spiritual wisdom, charity, self-control, performing sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all beings, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy, and freedom from passion for honor. So we can discuss all of these divine qualities in detail and look at many examples of great devotees exhibiting these qualities. For example, fearlessness, you could certainly say Prahalad was fearless. He had such faith in the Lord. You know, we talked the other day about the pastime of Parvati Devi and Lord Shiva. They were testing everybody who took a dip in the Ganges, asked them to protect and rescue Shiva in disguise. And everybody said, no, no, I will not do it. But only one person showed such faith that he had no more sins in him simply because he took a dip in the Ganges. That a dip in the Ganges is so powerful that it clears you of all your sin. So that is fearlessness. You could say that is also faith. Faith in what the Shastras say, that the Ganges is so pure. Externally, it may look dirty to you, but nevertheless, it can wipe out all your sins. There is also this aversion to fault finding, you know. So one day, one person, he was habituated to finding faults. Some of you may know some people in your life. Some people are simply habituated to finding faults in others. So this person was in the habit of finding faults. And Yamaraj comes when he was dying. And he protests to Yamaraj. He says, no, 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 you know, I'm still so young. Please, you know, give me some other punishment. Why death? Why should I die at such a young age? And Yamaraj explains to him, see, my dear young man, you've collected so many sins just by finding faults in others. The best punishment for that is death. And the young man protests. He says, no, 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 I will live my life, etc., etc. So then Yamaraj says, well, if I have to excuse you from death, then I have to give you some other punishment. And the young man says, I will accept that punishment, whatever it is, but please not death. So Yamaraj says, okay, for the number of times you've criticized and found fault in others, here is a mountain of insects, which is equivalent to the number of times you found fault in others. If you don't want to die, then you have to eat this mountain of insects. How can you expect me to do that? How can you expect me to eat this mountain of insects? And Yamaraj says, why not? It's that many times you've found fault with others. So the young man protested and he said, no, 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 please, not this, not this. So no death. No, I don't want to eat the insects. Give me some other punishment. Yamaraj said, okay, fine. You sit under the palm tree, palm tree where you make toddy. You have a glass of milk. You will be having a glass of milk. Wait and see who passes you by. The first person who thinks, here is a drunkard, wasting his life. Whatever sins you committed will be transferred to him. Sure enough, a man came walking along. And he thought, look at this loser, drunk on toddy. And immediately the young man's sins passed on to this person. Why? Because of the habit of fault finding. All of us have a tendency to do this. Do not take it lightly. Fault finding is a sin. You will accumulate punishment for that. Yes. So, if anyone can do this kind of fault finding with others, you can imagine what Yamaraj has in store for us. So I was saying in one of the classes, we have a tendency to take a magnifying glass and examine others under that magnifying glass. Actually, that magnifying glass is meant for you. You should take the magnifying glass and you should observe yourself. What you're doing, how you're doing, why you're doing, etc. The whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to cure yourself first. You have to assume you are the most infected person in this universe, and therefore you need to be cured first. And therefore the cure starts with Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's where the cure lies. If you chant, I was just talking to somebody here in the temple. We had a class here in the temple. And one of the Prabhujis came up to me and asked me about the rules of chanting. And he's new to class. And I asked him, okay, how many rounds are you chanting? And he said, Mataji, I'm chanting 3 to 4 rounds every day. I asked him, do you feel any difference? He says, I feel a tremendous difference. And he's only been chanting for a couple of months. Imagine just chanting for 20 minutes a day. He tells me has made a tremendous impact on his life. He says, I can see visible changes in me. That is the power of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Sikshastakam, Nam Bahuda Nijasarva Shaktihi. In your names, my dear Lord, you've invested all of your potency in your names. Therefore, the names of the Lord are non-different than Krishna. So when you're chanting the holy names of the Lord, you have actually already captured Krishna. You just don't know it. So that's the power of chanting. It can completely transform you. It can transform your life. You can become a different person, a better person, a much softer person, a much gentler person. So there is another pastime of a similar tendency to find faults. One day, a king was throwing a feast, and he had invited all of the brahmanas to come and honor the feast prasadam. But after the cooking was done, what happened is an eagle was flying overhead with a dead snake in its beaks. And a drop of poison from the snake fell into one of the containers of prasadam. Therefore, that prasadam got contaminated, but nobody knew. And they happened to serve the prasadam. And a brahmana lost his life by eating that prasadam because there was poison in it. So the news reached Chitragupta, and he was puzzled. Who should we attribute this death to? In the sense, who killed the brahmana? One could say it was the king because he was the one who organized the feast. He should have protected the food, the prasadam. Another could say, why should the king be held accountable? It should really be the bird that was flying overhead. But then the bird is just hunting its natural prey, so it has caught a snake. So how can the bird be accused of killing that brahmana? Okay, the actual poison came from the actual snake. So maybe the snake is responsible for the death of the man. But then how can the snake be responsible because it's already dead? It's just a drop of poison separated from its body and landed in the food. So Chitragupta put the file away and marked it work in progress. But he doesn't know who to give this sin of committing murder of a brahmana. He was convinced it was not the king. He was convinced it was not the eagle. And he was convinced it was not the snake. So he waited. There was an old lady in that kingdom. And one day, a couple of travelers stepped into the kingdom. And they asked her, can you tell us which way is the palace? We've come to see the king. So she says, oh, that king, what a dastardly act he has committed. That he caused the death of the brahmana. So Chitragupta said, I have found the culprit. He attributed and passed over the credit of killing to this old lady. Why? She had found fault with the king, falsely accused him of killing a brahmana, and therefore she got the punishment of having killed the brahmana. So that is why Krishna says in the 4th chapter that karma and the results of karma, it's a very difficult topic to understand. Krishna says the intricacies of karma are very hard to understand, even for the most intelligent and wisest of men. The intricacies of karma are very hard to understand. Can you imagine in these 2 examples that we talked about, how karma works? So beware of fault finding in these 2 examples. So I always say, be simple, be straightforward. Don't worry about who did what, where, when, why, or why not. Worry about yourself. You be peaceful. But don't go around looking for faults in others. If you do, then we know the consequences can be quite severe. So how do we actually cultivate these divine qualities? We have what is called the ABCD formula. To cultivate these 26 divine qualities, or even one or more of those divine qualities, first thing is you have to spend time with other devotees, physically or digitally. Physically is better because you have an opportunity to serve the Vaishnavas. Digitally is better than not having any association at all. So when you come in contact with good people, it prevents you from going down the path of evil. You know, Prabhupada used to say, if you hang out with a drunkard long enough, you yourself will start drinking. If you hang out with a drug addict long enough, you yourself will start doing drugs, because that's the power of association. Similarly, if you hang out with devotees long enough, you yourself will become a devotee one day. Without even thinking, without even making an effort, without even being conscious of it, you will become a devotee. So that is A. What is B? B is to study the scriptures. So our scriptures of study is Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And study means regular. Regular means once a day. If possible, twice a day. You know, maybe 20, 30 minutes in the morning and maybe 15 minutes at night. You should study the scriptures, because then you will actually understand what's the purpose of life. C is for chanting the holy names. By chanting the holy names of the Lord, and if we chant continuously, all of the sins are removed, and most importantly, the mind will come under control. So hence it's called mantra, something that releases the anxiety of your mind. Hare Krishna. Sorry for the interruption. There's some important program happening tomorrow. So anyway, chanting of the names of the Lord helps you bring your mind under control. Because there's no other way to bring your mind under control. Doing dhyana yoga and all, you can just forget it, because it's not meant for Kali Yuga at all. And D is for two things: changing your diet and doing some deity worship at home. So changing your diet means you must honor prasadam every day, because honoring prasadam also purifies you, it purifies your mind, and it most importantly helps you control your senses. So as I said, you would think that the demoniac qualities will be far more than divine qualities, especially since we are all living in Kali Yuga and we can observe all of these individuals all around us. Everybody seems to have so many qualities that are not conducive to practicing Krishna consciousness. But Krishna talks about just 6 demoniac qualities. So the 6 demoniac qualities are pride, anger, conceit, arrogance, harshness, and ignorance. These 6, all of us have problems with. Or maybe some of these 6 we have a problem with. So again, it is pride, anger, conceit, arrogance, harshness, and ignorance. So in this particular shloka, Krishna is saying, this particular chapter is called Daiva Ashura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. There is Daiva qualities and Ashura qualities. Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Surimata Ma Shuchas Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi Pandava. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation. Those 26 qualities Krishna is talking about. If you develop those qualities, Krishna says that helps you get moksha. Whereas the demoniac qualities makes for bondage, which means everything just tightens up for you. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. So it's almost as if Arjuna is asking, I'm about to kill all these people. So does that mean you consider me as a person who has divine qualities, or do you consider me as a person who has demonic qualities? And therefore Krishna says, don't worry. I consider that you have divine qualities. Why? Because so patiently you have been listening. So attentively you have been listening till now. So that patience and attentiveness itself is symbolic of having divine qualities. This, of course, the picture here is the Samudra Manthan. How Krishna actually tricks the Asuras. in the form of Mohini, he deprives them of the Amrita. In the beginning, all the devatas were at the mouth of Vasuki. The demons thought, wait a minute, I'm sure this Krishna is playing a trick on us. They said, no, 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 we need to get the mouth. How can you give us the tail end, the bad end of Vasuki? So Krishna had told the devatas, whatever happens, you should accept it as my plan. Don't question. So it was only the devatas who, with faith and without any doubt, they just simply looked at the Lord and the Lord says, yes, switch places. So they went to the tail and the asuras went to the mouth of the serpent. And when the churning begins, what's the first thing that comes out? Poison. And those poisonous fumes were causing so much trouble for the asuras. They are the ones who wanted and insisted, you are cheating us, so please put us at the mouth. So eventually, of course, we know how this particular pastime ends with Krishna coming in the form of Mohini avatar and simply bewildering the asuras. They were so besotted with her beauty, they were willing to do anything she asked. And therefore, in his Mohini avatar, the Lord cheated the demons. All the Amrita went to the Devas. Of course, one of the demons tried to hide. That is what we call Rahu and Ketu. No? Immediately the head was cut off so that he couldn't swallow the Amrita. So the head is the Rahu and the tail is the Ketu. So Krishna is saying, because you've been very patient and you've been listening to me, certainly, my dear Arjuna, you have divine qualities. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana vidurasuraha na shaucham na pichacharaha na satyam teshu vidyate. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. So how is Krishna defining the asuras or those who do not have divine qualities in them? He says they can't discriminate. What is the right thing to do? What is the wrong thing that should be avoided? They just don't have this discriminatory power. And in addition, cleanliness, nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. So this is Krishna's view of those who have demoniac tendencies. And we were discussing in the evening class here in the temple, right? Krishna says in the 4th chapter, Paritpranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkatam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Okay, if there are so many demoniac forces all around us, how come Krishna has not come to protect his devotees? Are we not all chanting? Many of us are observing Ekadasi Vrat today. Still we are being troubled. How come Krishna has not come to protect us? And the way to understand it is this way. In the Satya Yuga, the demons lived on certain planets and the Devas lived on other planets. So there was a separation of planets between the Daivas and the Asuras. That was in Satya Yuga. In Treta Yuga, the demons and the Devas, they were living on the same planet. In Dwapar Yuga, they came into the same family. In Kali Yuga, they have come into the same individual. So Krishna can easily distinguish between who is a Devata and who is an Asura, because they are two separate entities in all the other three yugas, in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapar Yuga. In Kali Yuga, who is Krishna going to kill? If he kills, he has to kill all of us, because all of us have a little bit of divine qualities, a little bit of demoniac qualities. Therefore, Krishna in Kali Yuga decides the best weapon is the holy names of the Lord. He doesn't need to come with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma to kill us. He simply says, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting the holy names of the Lord, we kill the demoniac tendencies in us. That is the power of chanting. Do not underestimate the power of chanting. So the weapon in Kali Yuga is the holy names of the Lord. Krishna cannot come and will not come to kill every one of us. That's not his motto. So he comes in his most munificent avatar. Munificent means more merciful than Krishna is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even though there is no difference between Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One significant difference is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very merciful to the Jivatmas in Kali Yuga. If we simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord, doing Harinam Sankirtan all day constantly, then I will take you back to the spiritual world. Krishna is a little bit more strict. He first says, he demands you surrender to me. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you don't have to worry about surrender. I will take care of it. You, at least you chant the holy names of the Lord. I will take care of the rest. See, that's the difference between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shri Krishna. Krishna is demanding surrender. You become mine. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you are all Kali Yuga Vasis. Where you develop this mood? At least you can use your tongue, lips, and teeth to chant the holy names of the Lord. And simply by constantly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we can all go back to the spiritual world in this life itself. There should be no doubt about it whatsoever. And that's why we were saying, how many of you are going to come for the challenge? What is the challenge? The 21-day challenge of coming morning to do the chanting. Because if you chant in the morning, it's far more powerful than chanting in the Rajaguna, Tamogun phase of the day. So if you do your chanting in the Sattvagun phase of the day, that has powerful impact on you. So in order to chant and follow the instructions of the Vedas, it also means you and I have to take a vow to protect the 4 pillars of Dharma. This is explained in our scriptures. The 4 pillars of Dharma are truthfulness, compassion, austerity, and cleanliness. And in each yuga, one of the legs or a quarter of these qualities reduces. So much so in Kali Yuga, it is only truthfulness that is remaining. Compassion, austerity, and cleanliness is no longer there in Kali Yuga. So each yuga, dharma keeps degrading, unfortunately. But if we want to restore the times of Satya Yuga, then we have to restore these 4 pillars of dharma. These 4 pillars of dharma, Satyam, Daya, Tapaha, and Shaucham, are linked to 4 different aspects of controlling our senses. Truthfulness cannot exist if there is gambling. Because if you gamble, you have to lie, you have to cheat. So as long as there is gambling allowed in society, Satyam will keep reducing. Similarly, as long as there is meat eating in society, compassion, the quality of daya, compassion, will keep reducing. And as long as there is any type of addiction that is being offered in society, like alcohol, drugs, etc., people will not be able to observe any austerity. Because you cannot do tapah if you are under the influence. And finally, if there is unrestricted sexual practices, then cleanliness will reduce. So, when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are also taking a vow to restore these 4 pillars of dharma. And that means we have to pay attention to what leg of dharma is linked to what aspect that we are not following in our personal lives. Right? So, Krishna says that an asura has no sense of what can be done and what can't be done. He does not follow scriptures. They are very selfish. They engage in improper conduct. They are not truthful. There is no cleanliness. There is no sense of morals in them whatsoever. So this is what Krishna is describing as demoniac qualities. So here, there are a couple of examples in 11th and 12th shloka and then in the 18th shloka. Krishna is describing the demoniac people. He's saying, they believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. So Krishna is giving examples of what demoniac qualities and demoniac behavior looks like. What is that? They are simply chasing money, desires, and therefore their life is filled with anxiety. So much so they may be willing to do illegal things just to satisfy their senses. Of course, Krishna has described a lot more, but we'll look at one more shloka, which is the 18th shloka. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Ultimately, the asuras end up developing deep envy of the Lord, and they blaspheme the Lord, they blaspheme the devotees of the Lord, and they blaspheme practices of spirituality. So the first step in the treatment is diagnosis. So all of us have diagnosed ourselves as having some demoniac qualities in us. Maybe a little bit, maybe in medium, maybe it is really severe. It's only for us to judge for ourselves. How severely are we infected with demoniac qualities? And we simply need to hold on to the holy names of the Lord and uproot these demoniac qualities in us one by one. Okay. So there is a person who's a government officer, and he was thinking, I can become rich by taking bribes. So he starts to accept bribes as part of his role in the government. And his friends who are not in the government tell him, don't do it because you'll pay a heavy price. He says, why are you so worried? Everybody else is doing it. And anyway, I will save so much money. I can enjoy myself in retirement. And the friends tell him, but you've already collected so many sins in so many lifetimes. Why do you want to add more sins into the bucket? Because you will pay a very heavy price. But he does not listen to what his friends say. So as he gets older, he gets a severe diagnosis of a disease that is almost incurable. And that cure is not available in India. So he has to go overseas to find a cure. And all of the money that he collected as bribes was spent in treating him for his health issues. So when his friends met him, when he came back from overseas after having the treatment, they said, see, did we not tell you not to accept bribes because it's going to create problems for you? And his response was, what are you talking about? Had I not accepted the bribes, would I have had the money to cure myself? If I had not collected the bribes and I was sick, I wouldn't be alive today. This is what Krishna means by absolute ignorance. Complete illusion, where you're not willing to accept that there are certain things that are the right things to do. There are certain things that are wrong to do. Actually, anybody who accepts bribe, not only he or she will get destroyed, the entire family will get destroyed. The whole family has to pay a price for one person accepting bribes. They don't know this. They think if they can bring the money and put it in some hundi somewhere, they're trying to manipulate Krishna. You cannot manipulate Krishna. He's the greatest cheater there ever is. He will come and cheat you of all of your wealth when the time is right. So always do the right thing, no matter how much temptations may be there in our life. For some of us who may be in positions that are very, very powerful positions, beware of accepting bribes. Even a small thing. I was hearing a pravachan yesterday. There was a very wise old man. When he went shopping, the shopkeeper had given him change in excess of what the bill actually stated. So say, for example, if he was supposed to be given 20 rupees in change, accidentally when he counted it, it was 40 rupees. So immediately he told his son, you go back right now, and return this excess 20 rupees. Because some of us may think serves them right for not being careful when they're counting the money. These big companies cheat me all the time by overpricing their goods. So it serves them right. After all, it's only 20 rupees. What's going to happen? And this Maharaj was saying, no, you will pay the price for not returning that 20 rupees. You have to be that dharmic if you want to go back to Krishna. Never step over boundaries. What doesn't belong to you, does not belong to you, return it. Even if it is 1 rupee excess, you have to return it. Yeah. Same thing. If you borrow money from others and you don't pay them back, you'll pay a heavy price. Because debt is a very powerful binder when it comes to karma. So Krishna is talking about the 3 gates to hell for all of us. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanam atmanah kamah krodhas tatha lobah tasmadetattrayam tyajet. There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So the 3 gates to hell are lust, anger, and greed. Lust, when it is satisfied, it leads to greed. Lust, when it is not satisfied, it leads to anger. So Krishna is saying, if you're a very sane person, if you're a sensible person, if you're an intelligent person, you will give up lust. Why? Because it degrades your consciousness. And when your consciousness degrades, you have to change your body. You cannot be in human form anymore. You have to go back to lower animal species, or even worse, go back to lower planetary systems. So this is the hell that has the 3 gates. So we are creating our own hell by not controlling our lust, anger, and greed. So how do you rescue yourself then? What is the reason we build these 3 gates to hell ourselves? Krishna says, Yashastra vidham utsrijya vartate kamakaratah na sasiddhim avapnoti na sukham na parangatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So what is the root cause? Krishna is identifying not following the scriptures and deciding for yourself, these are the things that are right, these are the things that are wrong, or whatever I do, I will do. What is the big deal? You know, the class today we were talking about, some simple things we have to follow. How do you wake up in the morning? What do you do as soon as you wake up and get out of bed? Without brushing your teeth, without washing your face, without using the bathroom, first thing you to do is drop down on the floor and offer pranams to your guru. The minute you wake up in the morning, you should remember Guru and recite the pranati mantra for Guru. So the minute we wake up in the morning, we should drop down on the floor, offer our pranams by chanting Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshadani. You're not remembering God first. You're remembering Guru first. Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastred. In the Guru Ashtakam, it says that Guru is non different than Bhagavan. He is a representative of the Lord. And Krishna is very pleased when we serve his devotees. We were discussing in the evening class a question that came in one of the meetings we had in the morning. Okay. And I will pose this question to you. I think a couple of you who attend the class are here today in the evening. So the question that was asked of me in the morning was, when I come to the temple, I want to attend Arati because it brings a great deal of peace of mind and satisfaction and calmness. My preference is to go and attend Aarti. But at that Aarti time, I also have to do Seva. So the question was, which is more important? Attending Aarti or doing Seva? You can tell me what is your answer. What is more important? Attending Aarati or doing your Seva? Acha. So all of you are saying doing Seva? Very good, because you have the right answer. Now, but do you know why that is the right answer? Because when you are observing Arati, you are enjoying yourself. When you're doing Seva, Krishna is enjoying you doing Seva. Therefore, Seva is more important. When you have service for Krishna, it means you are willing to put your own enjoyment on hold so that Krishna can enjoy you doing your services. So, initially, when we all come to the temple, we'll go through a phase, we'll be in front of the deity. We'll love to see the deity. Initially, when I was in ISKCON, all I was anxious was to see the deity pictures every day on WhatsApp. So I used to wait. When is the deity picture going to come? Then picture by picture, I would see and I would just enjoy myself, thinking, oh, how beautiful is Giridhari and how beautiful is Gandharvika. How beautiful is Mahaprabhu. How beautiful is Lakshmi Narasimha. Every day. And then when you come to the temple, you're obsessed with taking pictures of the deities. So many pictures I have taken. And I was saying in class today, in the last 2 years, I've not taken a single picture of the deities. Why? Because I'm busy in Seva. So sometimes when we come into the temple and do Seva, we'll just come, we'll greet the Lord, take the Lord's blessing, saying, okay, I'm getting ready to do your work. Please bless me. After that, we may never go back into the altar at all. We may not see the Lord at all again. Because all day you are doing Seva. That is what Krishna wants. Because Krishna wants you to work for him. Yes, taking darshan of the Lord, nothing wrong with it. It is very purifying. But as you mature in your spiritual journey, you realize how important Seva is for your own spiritual progress and for the satisfaction of the Lord. That is why Krishna says, better than worshipping me is to worship my devotee, my pure devotee. Better than worshipping my pure devotee is to worship the devotee of my devotees. Because Krishna is very, very, very pleased when we engage ourselves in Seva. But how do we get into this trouble? By not following scriptures. By doing whatever we want. There are so many rules and regulations. Prabhupada would say, if I told you all the rules and regulations, you will not come to the temple, you will stop all your worship. Therefore, don't worry about the stringent regulations in the Vedas. Simply in Kali Yuga, you have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. That is the greatest yajna and the greatest tapas you can do. You don't have to artificially try to follow so many different rules and regulations, which is impossible to keep in Kali Yuga. Impossible. Prabhupada himself said that. It is impossible, so don't even worry about it. That's like Prabhupada never talks about all of these rules and regulations. There are so many rules when you visit the temple. What you should do, you should not do. So many rules. We will not even come to the temple if we find out what those rules are, including what dress color you wear or don't wear. What should be your attire? Do you know Vaishnava etiquette says that when you go to the temple, both for a man and a woman, you should be dressed in simple clothes. A woman should not beautify herself, wear lots of jewelry, wear expensive sari, whatever it is. Do you know why? When she goes to the temple, she should be dressed in simple clothes. Do you know why? Any idea why? No? Yeah, those are material desires. Yes, Krishna is the center of attention, not you. And yes, you will be a distraction to others. Krishna is the center of attention in the temple. You are trying to say, I am even more attractive than Krishna? No. So a man should be dressed in simple clothes. A woman should also be dressed in very simple clothes. No excessive jewelry, no expensive saris, no makeup. Okay, maybe a little bit makeup, but not too much. Because the center of attraction is Krishna, not you. You are there to see Krishna. Krishna is also there to see you and bestow his blessings upon you. So like this, there are so many chota mota rules that we don't follow. Hence Prabhupada says, don't worry about that. You simply chant the holy names of the Lord and you'll always be protected. So all of us have an opportunity to choose whether we want to follow the divine path or whether we want to follow the demoniac path. We have that freedom of choice. Nobody is forcing you to violate the scriptures. Nobody is forcing you to do the wrong things. You do it on of your own free will. So if you follow the good path, then it's going to help you in self-realization. If you follow the rules and regulations given in Shastras, you can escape from the gates of hell. And ultimately, you will go back to the Supreme Lord. However, if you don't, and if you do whatever you think is right, simply because you are too lazy or not bothered about scriptures, then you're going to be drowning in a cycle of sorrows. And eventually, as Krishna says in the Sloka, your consciousness is getting degraded. What is the consciousness comprised of? The mind, intelligence, and false ego. That together constitute your consciousness. So there was one more shloka that we will look at here. This is the last shloka. So in the 24th shloka, Krishna says, Tatsmat chat shastram pramanam te karya vyavasthitau jnatva shastra vidhanuktam karma kartume harhasi. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. So where do you find your answers as to what's my duty, what's my responsibilities? It's the scriptures. So Krishna is saying, then you make the effort to understand from scriptures what you should do and what you should not do. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So by following the scriptures, Krishna says, ultimately we reach the point of elevation. So there was one very interesting man. You know, he was very, very miserly. You could say kanjus. They say kanjus makijus. If anybody ever knocked on his door and asked him for something, he would point his finger and say, go ask at the neighbor's house. That was his constant answer. Go ask in the neighbor's house. They have it. Whatever you want, they will give you. And like this, he would point to the neighbor's house. One day he dies and he goes to hell. In hell, he's thrown into a vat of hot oil. and his whole body is just burning in this hot oil, except for that one finger that pointed at that neighbor's house every time he was asked for something. So this tiny little finger is being showered with chandan and flowers, while the rest of the body is burning up in hot oil. So Chitragupta stops by and he asks him, what is this? Why only my finger is getting chandan? What about the rest of my body? The Chitragupta laughs. You know why your little finger is being decorated with chandan and flowers? At least your finger pointed to somebody who's really a good human being. And you didn't take the opportunity to help others when you had the opportunity to help them. But at least you had the common sense to point your finger at another person's house and tell them you go get help there. So in that context, your finger did a great thing. But the rest of your body is burning up in hot oil. So he immediately begs Chitragupta and says, no, please, I have understood my mistake. Please, I will redeem myself. You please send me back. Chitragupta says, I don't think that's how the rules are supposed to work. But anyway, since you're begging and pleading with me, I will restore you to your original body and send you back to whichever place you are occupying, whatever position you are occupying in your previous life. So the man comes back into his original body in the material world, not the original body, but whatever body he had prior. One day he hears a knock on his door and he sees some saintly people standing outside. They ask him for bhiksha. Do you know what he does? He uses his whole body to point to the neighbor's house and he says, bhiksha is there. You please go ask in the neighbor's house. Did he redeem himself? He was so foolish. He thought if he uses his whole body, because he thought, okay, last time I pointed my finger and my finger was decorated with chandan and flowers. This time I'll use my whole body. So even if I go to hell, who cares? My body will be decorated with chandan and flowers. So the whole body was used to point to the neighbor's house. This is Asarik Bhav, not learning your lesson. So certainly we are not there in that position, because we are all here very diligently listening to chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita and understanding the difference between divine qualities and demoniac qualities. And also understanding that to remove the demoniac qualities that are there within each one of us, we simply have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the essence of this particular chapter, where Krishna is saying, you cultivate your divine qualities and you eliminate your demoniac qualities simply by becoming my devotee. Pretty soon, all of this beautiful qualities in you will surface up. And all of those qualities that are not useful for you to practice Krishna consciousness, you will give it up. So essentially, Krishna is saying in the Jnana Yoga section, we have to follow the scriptures if we want to make progress up that banyan tree towards the root that is connected to the spiritual world. So in order to go back home, you have to get rid of your demonic qualities. So Krishna has told us what home looks like in the 15th chapter. And Krishna has told us how to get rid of the demonic qualities so that you can go back home in the 16th chapter. So the 17th chapter begins with Arjuna having a doubt. He was thinking, okay, you have two extremes. One set of people who follow the scriptures, and another set of people who don't follow the scriptures. Okay, they are diametrically opposite, and you can easily understand, okay, one set is godly people, one set is demoniac people. So Arjuna's question in the 17th chapter is, what if people are half and half? A little bit following scriptures. Or maybe they are following their own thing. But they're at the same time, they're not demoniac, Krishna. What about them? Right? You may have a lot of people in your life who are not very religious or spiritual, who are not following Shastra, who are not doing puja every day, who are not observing Ekadasi fast, who are not chanting the holy names of the Lord. They have their own belief systems that they're following. They don't seem to be asuras to me. So where will they go? And how do you view them, Krishna? That's his question. What about those who don't have faith in Vedas and who do not have faith in you, but they have faith in something else? What happens to them? To find out, come for chapter 17 tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to discuss it. Any questions in this particular chapter? Please raise your hands and we will be happy to answer your questions. If anger is to protect dharma, then it is a divine quality? Absolutely. But anger not in vindictiveness, yes? Anger with the intent of righting a wrong, that is okay. Anger with the sheer intent of hurting and harming others is not okay. So the next question will be, so why did Hanuman set fire to Lanka? That would be a question, right? Did he not kill people by doing it? The answer lies in the scripture itself. It is said that Hanuman, when he set fire to Lanka with his tail, that actually the tail was set on fire by others. It was not set on fire by Hanuman himself. He avoided houses that had old people. He avoided houses that had women and children. And he targeted those houses that had asuric tendencies. So anger in the service of Lord Ram is accepted because it's for a divine cause. Okay, what seva can I do as a student? Many sevas. All of you students are very adept at digital media, so maybe that's a space that you can help us and help the temple propagate this temple and propagate the Bhagavad Gita classes. You can post our posters on your Facebook account, on your Insta account. So many ways in which young people can help us because you are more digitally savvy than we are. Certainly more digitally savvy than I am. Yeah. Okay, there's a question that says, by scriptures, does it mean only the Vedas or other texts? The Vedas comprise all texts, right? When we say scriptures, it has a very broad context. But for you and me, scriptures is just the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. These three scriptures are more than enough. So there are two types of scriptures, what is Shruti and what is Smriti. Shruti is what comes directly from the lips of the Lord. Smriti is what the acharyas create instructions and guide you. So we have to follow both. We have to follow the instructions of the acharyas. So, many of us will think we know what is the meaning of Shastra. You could simply say, because we are not intelligent enough to read all of the scriptures on our own, we need to go through guided reading, like how we've done in these sessions, a guided reading of the Bhagavad Gita for better understanding. But you need not read. See, the Vedas have the Karma Kanda section, the Jnana section, and the Upasana section. We are interested in the Upasana section, or the worship of the Supreme Lord. Karma Kanda we are not interested in, because Karma Kanda says, you do this, you'll get this benefit. If you follow this process, you'll get that benefit. So we're not interested in that, because that's going to bind you in repeated births and deaths. We are not interested in the Jnana Kanda section also, because we don't have the capacity to study the scriptures. In Kali Yuga, we are considered to be far less intelligent than in other yugas. So for Kali Yuga Vasis, it's very, very simplified. Read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Srimad Bhagavatam. By the way, these two books are not that easy to read on your own. Therefore, you begin with chanting and taking up some service in the temple. Okay, we have read so many rishis who all have good qualities, but with anger, they punish others. How do we view them? We still view them as great devotees of the Lord. They are great devotees, but they may not be considered pure devotees. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12 Mahajans are mentioned. And it is said that we can follow in the footsteps of any one of those 12 Mahajans, like Bhishmadev, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami. We can learn from their lives and follow in their footsteps. So Durvasa Muni is not an ordinary personality. And Durvasa Muni is considered to be an Amsha of Lord Shiva. Yeah. So as we say, Ravana prayed to Lord Shiva for all of his benedictions. And that same Lord Shiva came back as Hanuman and destroyed him. So, yes, there may be many rishis who have done wrong, but who have also corrected themselves. So that is a good path for us to follow. Okay. Ultimately, the Lord uses his devotees themselves to demonstrate to us what we should and should not do. Okay, there's a question about, don't kings in ancient times often hunt, feast on meat and engage in gambling? Actually, as per Shastra, the king is the protector of all citizens in society, not just human beings. So the king is meant to protect all jivatmas. That is his duty and responsibility, not just, I'll only protect human beings. And I will just continue to kill whatever I want, whenever I want. I will manufacture, have big slaughterhouses, cram up chickens in van and whatever nonsense that goes on today. That is not the king's role. The king's role is to protect all jivatmas, not just human beings. Right? When Lord Ram goes to the forest, Sita Devi asks him, hey, why are you carrying your bow and arrow? We are after all in Vanavas. And what does Lord Ram say to Mother Sita? He says, it's my nature, I'm Kshatriya. Even in the forest, I'm acting on behalf of Bharat. I'm here to protect the Jivatmas in the forest. So my Kshatriya nature will never leave me. So, as per Shastra, kings were allowed to kill animals if animals were causing distress to humans. If there was say for example, if there was an overpopulation of lions, then they were allowed to kill for the sake of controlling the overpopulation of animals, but in highly restricted conditions. Yeah, sometimes kings also may have consumed meat. Now, there is another way to look at it. If you are a Kshatriya, that means you have to be ready to fight. You can't be eating sattvic food and be angry. Because when you consume only sattvic food, your anger will disappear. And to fight, you need anger. Anger is in Rajagun. Yeah, so sometimes meat may have been authorized for that purpose. But otherwise, definitely an animal that is already dead, as per Shastra, you can consume the meat. But one should not kill an animal for the purpose of eating meat. That is considered to be a terrible crime. If an animal dies naturally, and it's a necessity for you to stay alive, you are allowed to consume meat. There's no necessity for us to consume meat. There is ample number of rice, grains, vegetables, fruits for all of us. Maybe in those days, when you lived in remote areas and you could not grow your own vegetation, or there was very limited vegetation, then maybe you were forced to eat meat. That is okay. If you have to protect your life and sustain your life, you are allowed to kill just for the sake of sustaining your life. But unrestricted killing is not authorized. Because the scriptures say if there is unrestricted killing of animals and birds, it will result in war after war after war after war. So animal killing is directly related to how many wars there are. So there'll be more and more conflicts as we go along because of unrestricted killing. Did kings engage in gambling? Yes, actually there is a rule also. There are different dharmas, there is something called the Kshatriya dharma. Why did Yudhishthira Maharaj accept the gambling match if gambling was not authorized? Because if one Kshatriya invites another Kshatriya for a gambling match, you cannot refuse. That's a rule. Right? There are all so many different small rules. That's why Krishna says, this dharma is can be very complicated. So why don't you just focus on one single dharma that is easy for you to latch onto? The dharma that says you are my servant, you are meant to serve me. And when you serve me, not only am I happy, but you are also happy. That is the concept of surrender. Okay. Nice questions. Any other questions today? Okay, I don't see any other questions. So thank you so much for joining me today. We will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the appearance day of Varahadev. So maybe we can do a little pastime of Varahadev. There are actually two Varahadevs in Srimad Bhagavatam. So join us tomorrow for chapter 17. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Anantakoti Vaishnavi ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Devotees, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna
thank you
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, as far
Hare
as
Krishna
my
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, somebody is asking for an update about my mother and my husband. So my mother is doing okay. She's recovering slowly. My husband is going into surgery either Monday evening or Tuesday morning. So he will be admitted to the hospital on Monday to remove the tumor. And yeah, so he'll probably be in the hospital for a few days before coming back home. Thank you again for all of your prayers and your concern and your good wishes. I sincerely appreciate it, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your kindness and generosity. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.